Hello, dear students. This is the first movie of our mapping the urban agglomeration tutorial, and this is meant as a how-to video. So I've downloaded the data and all the required files. They ended up here. It's a zip file in my downloads folder. So I'm gonna extract it. I have to unzip this file, of course, and I have to put it in a place where I'm allowed to read and write files, and a place I remember where it is. So I'm gonna place it on C, in my case temp. Then we're gonna create a new folder called tutorial, and then I'm gonna select this folder and extract. So this is the new folder that I have. I can see here my QGIS project file, and I also see some image data and some vector data. Okay, we have to open this QGIS project file. You can double click on it, or you can open it from QGIS. Let's open it from QGIS. I have my QGIS open here. So I have on my browser panel here, I'm going to navigate to where I've extracted my files. It was C, temp, and then it was called tutorial. Here it is. So in order not to come here all the time, see it, open, 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 I can add this as a favorite. And if it's a favorite, it shows up here on my favorite list. So I can just open it from here now. And there we go. One vector file shown by this icon here, one raster file shown by this icon here, and our project file. I'm going to open the project file. The project file is a combination that already holds which data is being used on the project and which colors does the data have. And now I see this is the vector data. I can zoom into it indefinitely. These vector files. And if I turn it off and then this one on, I see the raster data. Okay, another interesting thing to note is that you see here on the corner EPSG 28992. That is the coordinate system, the spatial referencing system. And this 28992 is the Dutch coordinate system. It's called Amersfoort RD New from Rijksdriehoek New. Okay, everything looks as we want it to look. Now I have data, vector data, land use data, and I can even look at the legend here. I see industrial areas, burial grounds, forest, available for building, daily recreation. So I have a feeling of, for each parcel in the Netherlands, I have a feeling of what is the land use there. And the first task is to intuitively draw the boundaries of the Amsterdam urban agglomeration. And I request you to create a new shapefile first. So first we go here, and it says here new shapefile layer, so this button, or you can also layer and create a new layer, a new shapefile layer. And the name will be urban, or step 1. Yeah, urban draw. Geometry type is important. It's a polygon. And what is the coordinate system? I want it to be the same as the map. So it's important. Let's always use the Dutch coordinate system if we're doing things in Amsterdam. And if you're doing things in the world, maybe you can choose a different one. And that's it. We can also add fields here. We don't need it for now, so just go ahead and press OK. Now we have a new shapefile here, but of course it's empty. There's nothing in it. So what we're going to do, we're going to start edit this to add new shapefiles. So the first step is start editing. So you can right click here and say toggle editing. or click on this button here. And now we can add a polygon. I'm going to click here, add a polygon. And now see my cursor change. Now it looks like a bullseye. And it allows me to draw, to click, 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 and draw a polygon. And I feel, and I look at this, I can see an urban area, and I'm going to try to delineate it. So I'll start here on the top. So I see this is kind of a recreation area. I'm going to leave that out for now. I'm going to start here with these industrial sites. So I just start drawing. And go here, Amsterdam North, Eiburg. This is too far, I'm not going to include it. I'll go back here. This is close by, I'm going to include it. I left that one out on purpose. And still included. Schiphol I'm going to leave out. So this is what I feel is the urban agglomeration, one contiguous area of urban features. I'm going to include also. And when I'm almost finished, I'm gonna right click. And that's it. And it says, okay, when I right click, it pops up this. So what is the ID, the identifier of this cell? It doesn't really matter, I can leave it null because I'm only gonna have one feature, but let's put 1 for completion purpose. Okay, and there you go. This is what I felt by looking at the map, the urban agglomeration looks like. So this was step 1. Okay, and now in the next step, we're going to turn off this intuitive layer. We're going to need it later on, but we're going to turn it off for now. So now, I'm going to stop editing. So save my edits and stop editing. Now I can turn it off. In this next step, we're going to say, okay, imagine you don't want to do this by hand. Of course, there's a lot of subjective reasoning by hand. You want to automate this process, and that's what we're going to do next. So imagine that, okay, let's select all the land uses that are urban to us, and then we'll start there. So we're going to right click on this layer, the land use layer, and we're going to say open attribute table. Now let's explore this a little bit. It says, okay, there's a code 11, 20, 23, 32, and there's a omschrijving, that means description of this code. For 40 is parks and plantsoens, so this is like parks and recreational sites. It even has a main category, hoofdgroep, so a main category. So parks belongs to category recreation. Overig agrarische gebruik belongs to category landbouw, which is agriculture. So you have main groups and you also have these descriptions. And what I expect you to do is that you can actually read in the tutorial document, in the Word document, a translation. So if you don't speak Dutch, there's a translation between these descriptions and into English. I want you to select some of these parcels. And as you select them, so you can just click here, for example, and they are actually selected on the map. But of course, this will be very cumbersome to select them one by one. So we're going to be smart, and we're going to use an expression to select them. So I want to select, for example, what I believe is urban. So I want to select all urban areas. So all the residential areas, woongebied, and when you select all the industrial areas, that's what I want to do. So let's do that here. Select features using an expression. Then this expression creator pops up, and we're going to create an expression here. So here is what you can use for the expression, and we want to use field. So because we want to use this field, and the field we want to use is actually the omschrijving. So I'm going to double click on it. If I double click, pops up here. Omschrijving is, and when I have it selected here, I can ask for all unique values. And if I press here, I get all unique values. And then it's easier. I don't have to type it. I'm just going to say, okay, bedrijfsterreinen, that is industrial areas, yes. So when description is, omschrijving is bedrijfsterreinen, selected. And if I say select, everything that has this bedrijfsterrein gets selected. It gets highlighted in the map as yellow. Here they are. But we don't want only bedrijfsterreinen, we want everything that is urban. So we want to do, if it's bedrijfsterrein, or if it is, again, omschrijving is burial sites, yes, I think those are urban also. Or, and I typed in or, omschrijving is building area, bos not, it's a forest, I don't want this one, but building area, yes. Or, and then you could just continue like this. I just put in a very obvious one, which is residential areas that we definitely have to have, or other ones that you think it makes sense for you. For example, now that I look at it, I think airport makes sense to be urban also. Let's put it in. Oh, I need to put in the field. Okay, now we can continue. Or omschrijving is airport. Okay, I'm going to stop now, but you should continue this list with all the land uses that you believe should be part of the urban agglomeration. So this is why my result will be slightly different from yours. So I want you to think about this and just put in the ones that you believe should be part of the urban agglomeration. And select features. And now our map should be much more yellow, all the things that we've selected. And that's it. And I'm going to say close this one. But I can see here, I see it shows all the features, but I can see also here total number of features, 11,400, filtered, but selected, I have 3,000. So 3,000 that I've selected from my database. I can close it. Now I have the selection, but I don't want a selection. I want to create a new layer out of this selection. Now, how do you do that? You can just right click on the layer name that we have selected, say export, save selected features as. Click on it, and I say, wow, which format do you want to save it on? Let's continue with shape files. It's easy to use. File name, urban, okay, let's call it land use, select. And CRS, coordinate reference system, it's okay, it's our Dutch one, and that's it. So just make sure this is checked in. Save only selected features, and add save file to the map. Yes, I'm gonna get it directly on my screen. Okay, bang, there we go. So I'm gonna turn off the original data set. I don't need it anymore. And this is my selection of everything I believe to be urban. Okay, but it doesn't look like urban agglomeration, does it? Let's go move on to the next step. Okay, no. Why doesn't it look like urban agglomeration? Because it is not contiguous. There's all these holes in between, and this is still urban, let's say, all these holes in the middle that we were not able to select, or because somehow it didn't make sense to select them. For example, I don't think it makes sense to select roads as part of urban agglomeration because roads are everywhere in rural areas and in cities. So I didn't select roads. Also, water doesn't make sense because water is everywhere. So I just want to have features that are mainly from urban areas. But now that I have this, I want to close these gaps of the urban area. We have one continuous field like we used to have here. So how do we close these gaps? Well, one way, let's have the example of the Vondel Park. Imagine I think the Vondel Park should be urban, I want to close it. So what you can do is measure the distance. This is a measuring tool between this, and it's 300 meters. Okay, that informs us a little bit. So at least gaps of 300 meters I want to close. So what we're going to do, we're going to enlarge our areas 300 meters and then unenlarge them again. So shrink them back to the original size because I don't want them to be bigger. But we also don't need 300 meters. We might, well, just do half of it. So half of this side and half of the other side. Let's try that. So we just go to vector, geometry tools, and actually geoprocessing tools, and buffer. So now we have our input layer is land use. Yeah, so this is our buffer tool, and we have the right input, our land use select, and the distance. Remember, we want 150 meters for now. You can always read here for the different what do the different parameters mean, the segments and cap. I think it's interesting for you to know. And this is important. We should dissolve it because we want one area instead of just buffers of individual buffers of all the areas. I recommend that you always save to a file because if your computer crashes, you still have the data. And I'm going to put it on the same place where we're saving everything else, which was temp tutorial, and I'm going to call it land use select buff cell buff 150. Save, and I'm going to run it. So it's going through each cell, each feature, making a buffer 150 meters, and then dissolving it with other buffer that it finds. Okay, wow, this looks much better. Urban agglomeration still is quite large. Maybe it still some holes. So we're going to continue with this one. But now it artificially enlarged. Let me put this on top so you can see. Now it's everything is slightly bigger. So we want to go back to the original area, but just removing the artificially created extra borders. So we're just trying to close up the gaps to make one contiguous area. So we go again, vector, geoprocessing, buffer, and we say from our buffer area, we say minus 150, so it goes inwards, and save to file, and then we say then use buff minus 150, save, run. Remove this one in the meantime, and let's wait for the other one to arrive. It's finished. As you see, we can see them both here. This was the previous buffer, this is a new buffer. Okay, so there's still some holes in here. So in order to, if you wanted to fill in these holes, you could do it again. Create a new buffer, measure the holes that you want to close. I'm not going to do that for now. This will be the way to do it. So now we have our contiguous area, and the small holes like the Vondel Park and the canals and the streets, they are now closed. Okay, now we have these large agglomerations, but there are many of them. Let's just get the largest ones. And for that we can have to measure how big they are. So let's go here to our land use buffer after the inwards buffer, and right click on it and say open attribute table. When we open attribute table, we get this surprise. We only have one record. So if we select it, everything is one record. So even the separate islands. This is because the buffer dissolved everything, so it just made one big record out of everything. But it's not what we want. So we want that each of these features is one record that we can measure. So let's try that. So what we have to do now is go to vector geometry tools, and there's a multi-part to single parts. So multi-part is one polygon can have many parts, and single part is each polygon only has one polygon. Each layer only has each feature only has one polygon, and now one feature has many polygons. That's the right way of saying it. Let's do that. Multi-part to single parts, and yes, this is what we want to break into small pieces. Single parts. Let's go back here. Save, and we're gonna call it land use singles. Single. Save. We'll give it names that you can recognize. Then run. Close. It doesn't look different. It looks the same. But if we right click and get the attribute table, there we go. Now all the records are there. So we can select them, some of them, and you can see them popping up in yellow. Yeah. Okay. The descriptions are not correct anymore. It just repeated whatever was the one description that it kept, and the area is also the same for every one of them. So this is not correct. I'm gonna unselect everything. Now what we want to update this with the real area, with the square meters or square kilometers. And for that, we're gonna click on this button. It's called field calculator. And in field calculator, what we're gonna do, create a new field or update an existing field. And we're gonna do the shape area. We wanna update this. And what we wanna update it with? Well, it's called geometry operator area. You can type in dollar signal area, or you can just get it from here, geometry area, and it returns the area of the current feature. The area calculated by this function respects both the current project's ellipsoid setting and the area unit setting. So you have to know, because we have in meters, our coordinate system is in meters, the result will also be in meters, in square meters. Okay. Okay, and now it looks better. So I can sort this out. If I press it twice, it sorts by size, of course. And now I'm going to select the first one. There you go. And the second one. And the third one. So up there. So let's keep. So now here you can do two things. You can just select them like this. These are the three biggest ones selected. Or I can just again make an expression where and select everything. Let's copy this number. I can make a selection that says expression. Then what we do fields. So our shape area is bigger than the value that we had there. So the value for the third biggest. And if I say select features, there we go, same story. They're also selected. So we can do by hand, or you can make an expression. Close. And what we want to do, now we have our biggest areas. Right click, export, save selected features as the land use. This is now called glow. Okay. Turn off the other ones. And now we have our agglomeration. Actually, now that I think of it, it's actually handier to have only one. Let's do it again. Open attribute table, select just the biggest one, this one, then right click, export, save select feature as Amsterdam Harbor. Okay, and there we go. Now we could compare this to our original drawing. Well, it's not so different, but it's not so similar also. So then the question is, why is it different? Why is it similar? I remember I deliberately did not choose the airport, and later on I actually thought, well, airport actually makes sense to have. So this is where the differences come in. And there was actually something I felt it was too far away, but according to the data, it's not. So this is something for you to think about. This 150-meter buffer. I just, you should really carefully consider what kind of buffer you want, and the land uses. You definitely going to have a different result than I have. Don't think this is the right one, but I just want you to validate your assumptions based on. I want you to create the processing tools, the buffer, the choices that you make based on your assumptions.